Morning, good afternoon, good evening, Notre Dame fans, whenever you are listening or watching this week's Notre Dame recruiting update. Appreciate you for making us a part of your day. I'm Mike Singer. It's Kyle Kelly. We are the Notre Dame recruiting writers over at Blue and Gold. Excited to bring you guys a new show. If you're listening to this as a podcast, appreciate you. Hope you leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're watching the video, thank you very much. Watching live, watching back, whatever. Just hit the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content, and go to blueandgold.com. Tons of stuff. Usually Fridays can kind of be content dumps. It's like, all right, it's the end of the week. What do I, kind of have, in the inventory to throw up on the site? But some really good stuff going up at Blue and Gold today. I'm doing some new predictions. Not really going to talk about them, maybe a little bit in today's show. But yeah, it's loaded on the site already. I wrote an intel piece about what I'm hearing about, the quarterbacks, of a wide receiver who I'm hearing really good things about. So you can find that over at blueandgold.com. Visit updates, predictions, tons of stuff. Blue and Gold, definitely the place to be. Wouldn't you agree, Kyle?
Yeah, I think so. And how about this? I just as soon as we started the show, I don't know if it was a coincidence, but I got a text message asking over under 5 Notre Dame commits by May 1st. So let's say you.
5 in the next month.
5 in the next month.
That's high. That's high. I would say under, because if it hits 5, it's a push. I mean, is it going to be 6? I'd say under. 5's a lot.
Yeah, this is a optimistic Notre Dame fan, as many of them are. I think Notre Dame has a chance to go on a run, coming off the blue gold game, and then they got a massive visitors weekend this weekend as well. But I think 4 is probably the number I'm going with.
Yeah, this is probably the biggest visit weekend of the spring. I said that in a video with Darren Pritchett. Like, if you had like the first week and the second week combined times 2, that's like this weekend. Like that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like you had a big visitor each week. Like you had Caden Finley come in March 29th. The week before was, the Rodney Dunham and Ian Premer weekends, and Joey O'Brien came midweek. But this week, which we will talk about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the visitors like this week. In terms of guys who are already on campus, which I'm going to write an intel piece about what I'm hearing about how things went with those guys. And also you can find the interviews with those prospects at blueandgold.com. But yeah, I'm going to have that up on the site later this afternoon. And I got some new predictions. And then tomorrow, I'm going to see Noah Grubbs at the Elite 11 Regional in Tampa, Florida. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I talked to Charles Power recently, on 3's Director of Scouting and Rankings, about Noah. So I figured I would get that article up with what Charles was thinking about Noah before the Elite 11. He's got Noah ranked as a 3-star, and other sites do not. So if you want to see like why the heck Charles ranks and where he ranks them, you can find that at blueandgold.com today. Luis says, let's get a call-in show. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's tough to find the time to do those things. So appreciate it. Jeremy says you should do live shows like you did in 2022. Brother, I don't know what you're talking about. We I don't know what I did in 2022 that's different. You'll have to let me know, Jeremy. Kyle, let's dive into new predictions. So you've logged a couple. Steve Wiltfong's logged a few, so we're going to talk about them right now. This one is, pretty like industry consensus in terms of like predicting Forney, Texas running back, Javion Osborne, 5'9", 195-pound, top 100 overall player, the nation's number 97 prospect, and number 8 running back in America. He announced his top 2, Kyle, and you logged a prediction to or for Notre Dame, and Wiltfong did one yesterday. Why'd you pick Osborne to Notre Dame, Kyle?
Yeah, just talking to Javian after his Notre Dame unofficial visit, third week of March. That was his first trip up to campus, and gave a pretty glowing review to Blue and Gold. Called it the best and most thorough visit he's ever been on. And I talked about this on last week's show. Javian Osborne's a guy that I thought if he ever got up to Notre Dame, they would make a pretty big move with him, just because he fits that profile as a Notre Dame kid. So was not too surprised to see that Notre Dame, captured a bunch of momentum once he got to South Bend, especially with new Notre Dame running backs coach Jaywan Sider, who's got a pretty strong pedigree on the recruiting trail. And just from kind of the buzz I'm hearing out of Ann Arbor is that the Wolverines are making a big push for Savion Hyder, who is I think borderline 5-star guy, highly ranked recruit who Notre Dame actually offered last Pot of Gold Day, the running back in Virginia, but he's been focused on 5 other programs. I think Tennessee, Ohio State, Georgia are some of the schools in the mix for him. It's my understanding the Wolverines are making a big push. I don't know how much that has to do with Osborne.
Kyle, let me ask you: is Michigan taking 1 or 2 backs this cycle?
I don't know, but basically I know that Javian Osborne is a major priority for Notre Dame, and I think he's feeling that way.
Okay, because I mean Notre Dame's wanting to take 2 backs. Like if Michigan's taking 2 backs, what? Unless they're taking 1. But yeah, it's man, what a good push here for Notre Dame. As I've been saying this for years, like, and you said this, Kyle, just a second ago, like, just never know, man. When you get up to like Notre Dame, just clicks for some people, man. It just does. You just go up there and it's different. I was talking. When we talk about a prospect later, there's someone who went up to Notre Dame and it just like blew them away. They just were not expecting Notre Dame to be like that. It just is different. It doesn't fit everyone. I remember interviewing Landon Tangwall when he was a recruit. Landon's ended up at Penn State as an offensive lineman and a friend of the show at Blue and Gold. And he was like, he just couldn't really get over the dorms. It's like some things just for Notre Dame don't click with recruits, but others it does. So it seems to definitely have clicked with Osborne. Top 2 of Notre Dame and Michigan. Love to see a good top 2. I'm over top 12s and top 14s. I don't even post them on the message board anymore. I know Kyle will, so I'll let him do that. But yeah, top 2, that's legit. And I'd much rather battle Michigan for a Texas kid than Texas or Texas A&M, Kyle.
Yeah, Texas was looked at as the early leader in Osborne's recruitment, but I believe they changed running backs coaches this offseason, and they got a couple other guys higher on the board. So Notre Dame will be happy to take a top 100 recruit from the Lone Star State. And J.V. Osborne, we just got done seeing some of his huddle highlights. He's a pretty remarkable running back.
Yeah. Another pick. So Osborne was predicted by Kyle and Steve. But by the time you're watching or listening to this, maybe I have as well. Who knows? Caden Finley, have you picked him to Notre Dame, Kyle?
I have not. You're kind of leading the charge with covering his recruitment from Blue and Gold, so I'm kind of letting you.
Kyle, the prediction things are interesting because it's like I don't feel the need to predict everyone to Notre Dame. It's like that we think is going to Notre Dame. Like I don't know. I like the predictions to be like, man, this kid's committing in like 3 or 4 months. Let me kind of, excuse my friends, let me drop my nuts on the table and like make a pick here, right? Let me be bold here. Will I do some of the, he's committing in 3 weeks, let me like a pick? Sure. But you guys know how I feel about a silent commit. If someone's silently committed, I am not touching a crystal ball prediction, whatever. Not doing it. Goes against every fiber of my being. Won't do it. Not going to touch it. It's just not me. Others can. That's fine. Not going to do it. But like, I don't know. I guess I just don't feel obligated to. So Kyle, don't feel obligated to. You can. You don't have to. I just just like the all these prediction sprees. I have felt a little left out. I haven't done one in a while, so I'm going to do a few today, Kyle. And one of them, I don't think anyone has predicted to Notre Dame. Maybe 2. We'll see, Kyle. But yeah, Caden Finley. I I predicted to Notre Dame in February, and Steve Wiltfong, after Finley's visit to Notre Dame last weekend, so we're talking about 6-7 days ago, Steve logged this pick, but this pick has taken place since our last show, which was of course last Friday. So this would be huge. 6'2", 195 pounds. You can make an argument, Kyle, that Finley is the most important player on Notre Dame's board. Receiver's crucial, and he is simply a massive target for the Irish in the 26th cycle, Mr. Kelly.
They love this guy, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Coming out of that visit, heard some pretty good things from sources at Notre Dame about how that trip went, and I think they feel they're in the pole position here. Texas is going to make it hard on them, especially with Finley being down there in Lato and being the son of former Longhorns tight end Jermichael Finley. But for whatever reason, I shouldn't phrase it like that, but there's probably multiple reasons that Notre Dame's out in front here for Finley. And, you mentioned probably not a bigger target on the board right now. We kind of felt that way, or at least I felt that way going into the winter about Connor Salmon and Trent Mosley, two wide receivers that you had pegged at Notre Dame back in August. Those recruitments kind of shifted away from Notre Dame to Clemson and USC respectively. So now here comes Caden Finley, who in the meantime, while Salmon and Mosley ended up going elsewhere, Mosley's been coming back to Notre Dame. And it seems like every time he gets back to South Bend, the buzz just gets stronger and stronger.
Finley?
Yes, okay. Finley.
Okay.
Yes, every time he gets back to South Bend, feels like the buzz gets stronger and stronger. He's got an official visit set, my understanding. I think he's been to Louisville this spring. I think he's been to Texas A&M. Those are two of the schools in the mix along with Texas. So, we'll just see if Notre Dame can close it down, get it done. I feel like at times last cycle, we felt Notre Dame was out in front for some wide receiver recruits. That's certainly the way this cycle as well. And, this would obviously be a really big get for the Irish if they can get it done here pretty soon.
Yeah. He's ranked outside top 100 nationally, but I would argue that his commitment would be as big as anyone else that you're talking about in terms of potential pledges for the Fighting Irish. A big one. And, he's visiting Texas this spring. I think it's in like 2 weeks. And then his last official scheduled for Texas. If you guys remember, I was saying in January, I was like, man, whether it was on our YouTube channel or just blueandgold.com, like I think Finley could pop in February. Like the feeling has always been like Finley's close to deciding, like it's not like a big recruiting kid, like, not like the spotlight. So it's not really about him. Like I always just see him shutting it down. Still a possibility for me that he commits to a school before the summer. So who knows if he even takes those summer official visits, but Texas, I do believe, gets the last visit in the spring. You always like to get the last visit. It's not a must, but he's tripping to Texas, and this is not a situation where like Notre Dame has him as their number one guy, and Texas is like, we can take or leave it. Nah, Texas. I believe I've read from our colleagues at Inside Texas and on 3 that he's like their top in-state target or something. So Caden Finley is definitely a big one for both schools, and personally, for me, been in this business for coming up on 12 years. No, I just hit 12 years like 2 weeks ago. I forgot about that. 12 years now. When you look at this recruitment, it feels historically, like looking at this from a historical standpoint, Texas legacy in-state, that's going to be really tough to beat. But man, when you talk to these Notre Dame sources, it's completely different. The same case has happened many times, and Notre Dame has lost. But I'm rolling with the Irish sources on Finley, and there's been many cases where they're right. We just, as a Notre Dame community, forget about those ones, and we only focus on the negative. Well, your Deuce Knights, your Peyton Bones. We only remember those, but we don't go back to. Man, do you remember that? Like, what we don't ever talk about enough? We do. It's Chris Burgess. Like him sticking with the Irish and not even blinking and being a leader of the class. No one talks about that. He committed to Notre Dame over Ohio State and Michigan for like leading up to that and the week of. You could have made an argument that Notre Dame was like 3 for him, Kyle, like second or third. And then they land him. And then he doesn't take another visit, locks in with the Irish, recruits for the class. Anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox, Kyle, and talk about another prediction. Amir Brown, I believe this is one of the first 27 guys. I think I did a pick or two in the 27 class. But Amir Brown, Kyle, running back from Rollsville High School in Raleigh, that Raleigh-Durham area is very important to Notre Dame in the 26 and 27 cycles. Brown is the number 95 overall player, number 8 running back in the country, fresh off a Notre Dame visit. Tell us about this prediction.
I don't know if there is an area that Notre Dame has recruited better under Marcus Freeman than North Carolina, or at least a state. When you look at the 23 cycle, who they landed, 2 offensive linemen, Sullivan Absher and Sam Pendleton. Obviously, Pendleton transferred out to Tennessee, but he started some games as a sophomore last season. I don't know if anyone was expecting that. Then in 2024, they land Micah Gilbert, Bryce Young, and Jack Larson. Last year was Jadon Blair. Now this year, in 2026, they're looking to make another major move in the Tar Heel state between Thomas Davis Jr., Rodney Dunham, and Ebenezer Utwade. So Notre Dame recruits North Carolina exceptionally well, and I think that's going to continue in the 2027 cycle with Amir Brown. Talked pretty extensively with him yesterday after his Notre Dame visit wrapped up the day prior. He actually drove from Charlotte to South Bend and had I don't know if we would call it dangerous, but a challenging trip back to Charlotte with all the weather that we had on Wednesday night, kind of that stretch in the country. But they made it home safe and sound, and even after sleeping, taking a night to sleep on it, he woke up with Notre Dame in pole position. His relationship with Ja'Juan Seider is really strong. That was the case when Seider was at Penn State. Brown had talked about the Nittany Lions being the number 1 school for him. They were the dream school growing up. Then you combine that relationship he had with Seider and Happy Valley. They were kind of setting the pace super early in his recruitment. But now he gets up to Notre Dame. Notre Dame just hits all the boxes for him, showed him an exceptional time on campus. It was very personalized for him. He loved the personalities and the character of the Notre Dame staff really resonated well with him. And I think Notre Dame is the team to beat. Me and Steve Will Fong both put predictions in to reflect that. And I think if all continues to go well, I don't think a commitment is imminent, but I have a hard time seeing any other team overcome Notre Dame at this point in his recruitment.
Yeah, I love the pick, Kyle. I think it's got a good chance, and I love it. It's bold. It's early for 27, and for a big time prospect. And yeah, I do like it. Hearing good things about where the Irish are at for sure. Like, yeah, they're the leader, definitely. We just have to normalize raving about Ja'Juan Seider. The guy is, look, I don't glaze for the sake of glazing. I will glaze if glazing is deserved, and it is with Notre Dame's new running backs coach. I can't rank where if he's better than McCullough. I can't, as a Notre Dame coach, I can't do that yet. The guy's been here for 4 weeks or something, but he has hit the ground running. Am I impressed with the running back recruiting? Of course. It's like how do I want to phrase this? What he's pushing the boundaries, like recruiting now is not as much area focused, right? Like Tommy Reese, Chicago guy, he's going to go recruit in Chicago. That's kind of that's not what it used to be 10 years ago. 10 years ago, if Tommy Reese was on staff at Notre Dame, it would have been like he is leading the charge in all those Chicago guys. When he was on staff, he would go recruit in Chicago, like when the coaches are on the road, but he's not leading the charge for all of Chicago recruiting for Notre Dame like it would have been when I started in this business. Sider is a throwback in that, though. Karan Maycock, the Florida State commit from Miami Central, visited large part due to relationship with Jaywan Sider. And then the Miami Northwestern 2025 cornerback, who I'm going to pop off this Amir Brown film, who took an official to Notre Dame a few weeks ago, ended up committing to Florida. That all came together in large part due to Jaywan Sider. So it's never going to be easy for Notre Dame to go down there, but I like it. I like what it kind of demonstrates what we could see moving forward. Maybe I wish he was from Chicago or Cincinnati, or maybe not Cincinnati. Notre Dame's got that covered, but Washington D.C. Some of those are more friendly to Notre Dame areas, but I love when coaches aren't just solely focused on recruiting their spot, like they could provide more. And Jaywan Sider's like Sunshine State, I got you. So I don't know. I like to see that, and he's also pretty good in, like the DC down to Richmond area. Like I was talking to Penn State guys, and he recruited that area pretty well from the knee line. So, again, not to glaze Jaywan Sider for the sake of just glazing. I think he's hitting the ground running. One more prediction to discuss. Ebenezer Utate, the number 189 overall player, number 22 edge, according to the On3 Industry ranking. Kyle mentioned him a minute ago as one of those big-time North Carolina prospects. Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame, and then I think he's been to NC State a couple times this spring. So some of the schools involved with the 6'4", 220-pounder On3 ranks him as the number 36 overall player, number 6 edge, according to the On3 Industry ranking. The potential for Notre Dame's defensive line class in 26 is, people who have been around the program a lot longer than me, I will let them chime in. I know, that was it 11 or 12 class with, Aaron Lynch and those guys, this has the potential to be better of a defense line class than that. So you're going back a long time. So, the Al Washington hate I think will be quiet for at least a year in terms of him as a recruiter, Kyle. And I know you've done a great job covering defensive line recruiting since you joined us, Kyle.
Yeah, exceptional job so far here in the 26th cycle for Washington. When you look at the way he has Notre Dame trending for Rodney Dunham, and then Ebenezer Utate, both out of North Carolina, but also guys mentioned Elijah Golden. He'll be back up on campus. The highly ranked defensive lineman out of Sarasota, Cardinal Mooney down in Florida. Mikhail Blade from Chicago Simians back on campus today. Notre Dame is kind of trying to hold on to the lead there. And I think, it wouldn't surprise me if, he jumps into the fold soon. I know he wants to take his official visits. So see what happens there. But what impresses me most about Washington, this is kind of, veering away a little bit from recruiting, but I was having this conversation with someone yesterday who had concerns about Notre Dame's defensive linemen entering this season. And I was thinking, okay, I understand they're losing Howard Cross, Riley Mills. Howard Cross was pretty much banged up all last year, missed a number of games. Riley Mills missed that stretch in the college football playoff. Obviously, Botello and Boubacar Traore were basically gone for the entire year after getting, having those knee injuries in the first quarter of the season. And look at the way that D-line played, especially down the stretch. Guys like Junior Tuihalamaka stepping up. Jason Onye left the team. And, at this time last spring, I don't know if we could have said with full confidence that Gabriel Rubio was even going to be on the roster at Notre Dame. He comes in and makes a big impact, even after being hurt earlier in the year. Young guys like Logan Thomas and Bryce Young made massive steps. They started out on special teams last year and then, started playing key snaps in the playoffs. So maybe with defensive line recruiting, maybe it hasn't had those 5-star, exceptional recruiting wins. And I know a lot of those guys mentioned, were already recruited before Al already signed out with Notre Dame before Al Washington got here. But he really has done a great job since coming to Notre Dame. First with developing guys and making the impact on the field, and now we're starting to see those results come on the recruiting trail.
Comment here from Gerard says, "Great shirt, Mike. What brand is that?" It's a great question. Glad you asked. It is Roback. So let's talk about Roback, the go-to brand for college athletes, with it leading the NIL charge. Partnerships with past Notre Dame stars like Audrey Estime, Kyle Hamilton, Michael Mayer, Riley Leonard, and Ben Morris. And again, the go-to brand for college athletes, and it's the go-to brand for Mike Singer. And wearing Roback like every other show we do at Blue and Gold. So on the screen for folks watching on YouTube, you can check out some of their polos. They don't have the Notre Dame Stadium polo in stock, which I wore during, I think, our show the other day with Tim Hyde. But you got a couple hoodies, you got the quarter zips. Man, the white hoodie is so clean. I have this gray hoodie with the Fighting Irish logo on it. Just clean stuff. Tim Hyde's rocking his Roback all the time on our shows as well. So please check out roback.com and use the code BlueGold20. When you're talking about a $124 polo, it's not for everyone in terms of price. It is for everyone in terms of like fit and feel and like how good you look in it. But if you can't do $124 polo, I get it. But you want to use the promo code BlueGold20 because that is 20% off for all new customers. And when you're talking about 20% on a $124 shirt, it's a really good deal. In terms of like getting that 20% off. So use BlueGold20 and then just like go to roback.com, check out everything that they have, because it's not just shirts and hoodies. They got all sorts of really cool stuff that you can check out over at roback.com, and make sure you use the promo code BlueGold20 for a generous 20% off for all new customers. I'm not a golf guy, but I mean, this is like I would call this like a golf polo, Kyle, but I look good all the time in it. I rock my Roback all of the time. It's good stuff. All right, let's talk about some visitors for this week. I mean, we could spend another hour on this. We're not going to. And again, blueandgold.com for all of the visit recaps, some intel that I'm going to be sharing on the site later this afternoon. Let's just go through some of them. Some of them already visited Notre Dame and have left, and then a few on campus right now. A few will be on, or one or two will be on campus tomorrow. So Nick Reddish got to town last night and was or is visiting today. He is one of those guys, Mr. Kelly, who I picked to Notre Dame a little while back. I don't know if anyone else on the beat has, or anyone else in the industry, but I picked that one February 26th. Still feel pretty good about it. Like, we haven't heard a ton about Nick Reddish in recent weeks. And I was like, oh man, is this one not trending to Notre Dame anymore? But I still think that Notre Dame leads for Nick Reddish. Notre Dame's done a tremendous job. Like Mike Mickens, Marcus Freeman, recruiting staff, everyone talks to Nick Reddish on a daily basis. Like, Notre Dame's doing really well here. Reddish not ranked very high, missed his entire junior season due to an injury. But he's back from that and is looking good from what I'm told. Or actually, from what he told me. I think he's getting closer to 100%. So Nick Reddish on campus today. Kyle, another North Carolina guy. Another one.
Yeah, pretty. I can't believe I went on my long spiel about Notre Dame, North Carolina recruiting just to forget Nick Reddish, because I think he very well could end up at Notre Dame. You have a prediction in for him, so I'm going to put a story idea on your radar for next week. Maybe you have to do this after the visits wrap up, spring visits, but I'm thinking we do a little RPM check-in with all your current picks and see how you're feeling about them, because credit to you, you make a lot of these picks, as you mentioned earlier in the show, before, decisions are imminent or anything like that. So, yeah, I'll be curious to kind of see how you feel about a lot of these guys. I don't think either you and I will be surprised if coming out of this visit that, Reddish is trending pretty hard to Notre Dame. I think he wants to get through those official visits. But yeah, I mean, he's getting up to campus, so we'll see what happens. Have you gotten the impression that he's going to be a nickel guy for Notre Dame?
I believe so. Yeah, I know that he's, you talk to the sources, and it's kind of like Joey O'Brien and Nick Reddish are like, yeah, corner or safety, just defensive backs, just get him here. So Reddish, I think specifically is would be trend as a nickel. So, but yeah, he could really play anywhere in the defensive backfield. They love his versatility. So yeah, like where the Irish are at headed into that one. Bubba Frazier, man, you talk about some of these receivers on the board. Bubba Frazier is not one that we discuss a ton. From Savannah, Georgia, one of my favorite cities in the country that I've been to. Benedictine. Why is that so difficult for me to pronounce? Military school.
Benedictine.
Benedictine. Maybe that's why, because I'm pronouncing it wrong. Number 352 overall player, number 56 wide receiver, ranked a little too low in my opinion. Had an incredible performance at the Carrollton, Georgia Under Armour camp earlier in the spring. Yeah, I mean, first visit to Notre Dame. I think this one's interesting. I'm looking forward to catching up with him after his trip because there's not like his recruitment's kind of blown up in the past couple months. I know North Carolina is a school he's liking a good bit. I wrote an update on him and some of his visits that he has. Let me just check it real quick. Give me a second. Wisconsin, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Georgia and Auburn offered real early, but I don't know. I feel like this could be one where Notre Dame becomes a sneaky contender. We'll see about Bubba Frazier. Evan Jacobson, number 243 overall player, number 11 tight end in the country. Man, Kyle, Notre Dame is getting all these like Midwest, Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, like these Midwest tight ends. They all just kind of run together. They were offered around the same time. All had the same profile, 6'5", 6'6", 220, 230 pounds. Evan Jacobson, first visit to Notre Dame this weekend. Okay, Notre Dame, Kansas State battle, do you think?
I have no idea. I think you're thinking of Ian Premer. It's more of Notre Dame, Kansas State, whereas I think for Jacobson,
I'm telling you, man, the new tight end offers in the end of January. I can never remember.
yeah,
Yeah, so he's from
thankfully
Iowa. So
there.
okay, so Notre Dame, Iowa.
So the crazy thing about his recruitment, he's a national recruit, has offers from like a bunch of Power 4 programs. Somehow Iowa is not one of them.
What?
Yeah, I can't believe that. So maybe I'm wrong, but I've tried to check on that a couple times now. But yeah, leave the tight end recruiting coverage to me, I guess, with all these
I
guys in the
guess.
Midwest. I wrote about Isaac Jensen, Nebraska tight end recruit who came into campus earlier this week. You can check out his thoughts on blue and gold. I'll be talking to Evan Jacobson tonight after his visit and have a story hopefully up pretty much soon thereafter. I think Auburn's in the mix here. He's got an official visit set to check out the Tigers in June. I forget the other teams that are kind of on the radar for him. But this visit is, kind of just introductory and a chance for Notre Dame to make their move. And
Yeah.
I think they've made a move with like Ian Premer this spring. They got to get him on the schedule for an official visit. Gavin Mueller will be up on campus here, I think next week. Chicagoland tight end they just offered at the beginning of February. And then toward the end of the month, they're hosting Matt Ludwig on an official visit, 4-star tight end out of Montana, who has a top 4, I think, of Michigan, Georgia, and Texas Tech. But he just got done visiting Texas A&M. He was at Georgia last week, a couple of days ago, and then Michigan recently as well. So Ludwig, I think, is a guy that Notre Dame could really make a big move with, considering that his first ever visit to a Power 4 school before he really began to get a lot of interest on the recruiting trail was to Notre Dame in June of 2023. He camped there, made the trip all the way out from Billings, Montana. So they're in a pretty good position with a lot of these guys. It's just a matter of, which one is gonna, I don't know, kind of take that next step with their interest in Notre Dame, and how's this class going to come together. If I had to do a mock class right now with projecting tight ends, I don't know who I would really put in. I feel good about a lot of guys, but I don't know if I'm at the point where I feel great, so to speak.
You said Ludwig. That's an official in April? This
Yeah,
month?
it is. Yep.
It's rare. Notre Dame does not do many spring official visits. Probably count on one hand the amount of time they've done that over the years for high school recruits. Big one here. Kene Ogboko, the number 70 overall player, number 7 offensive tackle in America, 6'6", 285 pounds. This will be his first time visiting Notre Dame since the Ohio State game in 2023. So, yeah, he's visiting this weekend. And, of course, Ebenezer Utate, who we talked about earlier, on campus as well. So Notre Dame would love nothing more than to have the dynamic South Garner pairing to end up with Notre Dame. Last guy we'll talk about it real quick. Drake Quinn, the defensive end, man. I'm telling you, this Notre Dame defensive line class has a chance to be special. Drake Quinn from Greater Atlanta Christian. Of course, in the Atlanta area, number 245 overall player, number 31 edge. According to the On3 industry ranking, a full 2-day visit. Spent a lot of time at Notre Dame. Wednesday and Thursday trip went very well from what I am told. And you can find a couple stories about him at Blue and Gold from Chad Simmons and Steve Woldfunk at On3. And man, family really liked Notre Dame. Mom, dad, the kid. I don't know what Notre Dame's going to end up doing in terms of who they land at the end of this class, but it very well could be a good problem to have, where it's like I know Notre Dame fans, just take as many of them as you can get. Take 12 defensive linemen. They're not going to do that. It's going to be like 5 or 6 at most. I don't think 7 unless, freaking Carter Meadows wants it, something like that. But Drake Quinn, after this visit, I can see Drake Quinn at Notre Dame, Kyle. I could.
I'm with you. You cracked me up when you said that about taking as many of them as possible, because I was starting to think the same thing. I was like, where are some of these guys gonna? I mean, do they have a spot in the class?
Dude, so Blade, right? Quinn. How many defensive ends and then add on potentially Dunham and Ute? It's like, okay, 4. And then you look at the interior guys, Tiki Halla. I like Notre Dame for Tiki Hall. I think it's Notre Dame or SMU. He announces in the spring. Okay. Kari Wilder. I think Notre Dame's got a really good. It's like, what? I don't know, dude. It's a great problem to have, though.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I know on 3 lists, Mikhail Blade is an edge. I like him on the interior.
Elijah Golden, too. Same
Yeah.
kind of boat.
Yeah, so they're in a great spot with a lot of these guys. So good problem to have. But as we find out so many times, once the dust kind of settles, not all these guys are going to end up at Notre Dame. Al Washington's doing a great job on the recruiting trail, but I don't think he's going to get commitment from every 2026 target who's on campus this spring. But it's trending for a couple of them, and I'll be curious to see what happens with Drake Quinn's recruitment, just because so many schools in the South are heavily involved. I'll be wondering if the post-visit high, so to speak, kind of wears off to him, once he heads back home. But sounds like, regardless, Notre Dame made a pretty big move after his visit.
Yeah. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Of course, if you have not done so yet. If you're just tuning in here, just see we got a few more people joining the show. We are going to wrap it up. I've got so much work to do. I know Kyle's got to get on the road. So just rewind, watch from the beginning. Talked about some predictions from Steve and Kyle. Talked about some visitors this week, some guys who have already been on campus, currently on campus, going to be on campus. And there's a ton more. So make sure you go to blueandgold.com for all of the coverage of that. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in to this week's Notre Dame recruiting update. We will catch you next time.